For a long time, it was impossible for me to look in the mirror and not feel disgust. I don't want to get emotional. But everybody looked at me and thought, that girl, she's got her own style, she's so confident, she's so vibrant. But inside, it was just all a facade, and I absolutely was on the floor with anxiety and feeling unworthiness. It was just one little comment, and it made me look at myself differently, and I developed really severe body dysmorphia in my mid-teenage years. I then started punishing my body through exercise. I loved to dance. Dance was my love language. I loved to move, and to be a professional dancer, especially back then, you had to really look a certain way. And I had a calorie counting app, like tracking all my calories, getting obsessive over what food I was eating. And I look back and it breaks my heart. And then dance college, which obviously is just such a high pressure and can be very toxic environment. I don't know one other girl that's come out of dance college loving themselves more than they went in. My mum came to watch my showcase a few months later, and I opened that show and she didn't even know it was me. Body dysmorphia and my obsession with being enough physically, it just melted away. There isn't a moment that I remember going, oh, ta-da, you know, it's gone, I feel good. It was just this slow burn. I do fully accept myself now, and I can say that with my hand on my heart, and it feels incredible to say that out loud.
Right, so today I'm here with Emily Chadwick-Vint. Tell us a bit about yourself. Who are you? Who is Emily?
So I am deeply passionate about three things: movement, moving your body, sisterhood, and the power of women. And I think I've gotten to a place now where that is my focus, of bringing them all together to just really allow women to find themselves at their most powerful state. Like, who are you at your highest, most powerful version of you? And I created the Goddess movement for women to find that inner goddess through movement, sisterhood, mindfulness, and practices that maybe they've never come across before, but it's fitness in a totally different light. And it fuses together my love of moving your body, but also educating women on how incredibly powerful we are. So I always loved to dance, and I used to be a dancer, and then I discovered barre, this way of training which didn't feel anything like exercise. It was something completely different and new to me. And I learned about the history of barre and how it was created by a woman, and it was actually a form of sexual empowerment in the 1960s, which I think is incredible, and it started a sexual revolution for women in the 1960s. But that's such a kind of buried piece of history that people don't even know about. But it awakened something within me, and I wanted to bring that to life because I felt firsthand the power of this way of moving. And after going through my own struggles with my own body confidence and doubting myself and experiencing horrendous body dysmorphia, anxiety, depression, it allowed me to fully find myself. And I would not be here now if I hadn't been on that journey. And now I want other women to experience the magic of it. Yeah.
I'm being nosy. What form of dance was it that you used to do?
Everything, literally. Yeah. I love musical theatre. I love singing, acting and dancing, and tap, ballet, modern, bit of commercial, sexy heels. I did it all. I love it all. But I auditioned, and that was not my path. I was never supposed to make it on the stage. I was meant to empower other women instead, and I'm so glad I didn't make it. Because that was my dream. I was so sure that was my dream. That was who I was going to be. But I'm all about, you know, trusting your path, trust the process. And I got pulled into a different direction, and now it makes so much sense. This is what I'm supposed to be doing. This is my dream. So thank God for all those rejections.
So you're this goddess now, but you talk about, you've sort of touched on points where you weren't always as confident. And so I just really want to start from the beginning. Like, so you've left school.
Yeah. Talk
to me how you got to where you are now.
Yeah, that's really interesting, actually. I didn't think of that. I feel like the Goddess movement is something that I needed back then, and it's definitely, everything I went through has led me exactly here. And like you say, I think every woman is a goddess, but none of us believe it. And so that's very much my mission through my love of movement and the rest of it. But yeah, I was very confident in school up until about my early teenage years. I loved to dance. Dance was my love language. I loved to move, and I was a very free, confident spirit. And then it was just one little comment, and I must have been about 13 or 14, that somebody made about me having an abnormally small head. That's all it took. It's like such a hilarious small comment, and it made me look at myself differently. And you know, it's such tricky time, isn't it, when you're in your teenage years? And I thought, oh, that's odd. And then I went through puberty, and obviously our bodies are changing, and I couldn't look at myself in the same way. It was just a little seed that was planted. And I mean, we know what it's like. We're so critical of ourselves, and there's so much judgment at that age, and well, at any age as women, we're all still battling these things. But it was just that little seed that was planted, and then that had a snowball effect. I went on birth control, and then again, my body completely changed, and I did not know how to handle that. And I developed really severe body dysmorphia in my mid-teenage years. And then my partner cheated on me, and it was just a big snowball thing. Plus the pressure of wanting to become a dancer and to be a professional dancer, especially back then, you had to really look a certain way. So in a nutshell, it was an unfortunate series of events. It was that little comment, and then my body changing, completely losing myself in massive heartbreak and believing I wasn't enough. And then dance college, which obviously is just such a high pressure and can be very toxic environment. I don't know one other girl that's come out of dance college loving themselves more than they went in. So yeah, I think it was around when I hit my early 20s, my body dysmorphia was so bad, but you just wouldn't know. Because I think, like many other women, we're very good at painting on a smile. Makeup was my armor, my makeup, and I backcombed my hair, so it was so high, just to hide. It was a big comfort blanket. But everybody looked at me and thought, that girl, she's got her own style, she's so confident, she's so vibrant. But inside, it was just all a facade, and I absolutely was on the floor with anxiety and feeling unworthiness. And then at dance college, I actually remember leaving my room to go to class, and I couldn't make it up the hill to dance college, and I was clinging to a lamppost. My knees gave way. I had this horrific panic attack, and at that point everything just peaked, and I actually flew home to Guernsey, where I'm from, and we just did not know what to do. What do we do with this confident girl that's now on the floor? And everyone thought it had come out of nowhere, but it'd been like a silent battle.
Can I ask what age you were at this point?
I think I must have been 21. Okay. Yeah, I was about 21. And it's hilarious now I look back. My mum, bless her, she tried everything. A man with a wig came to our house with dowsing rods. She was like, I'll do anything. And I got doused. I had dowsing rods. But jokes aside, the spiritual element of things really changed my life. And I tried everything. And what really helped me was, have you heard of EFT?
No,
Emotional freedom technique.
Is it tapping?
It's tapping.
Ah, okay.
And at first I was like, this is like woo-woo wild stuff. Now, you know, I love all the woo-woo. But at the time, I was like, this is bizarre, but I'm willing to try anything. And
Be careful who you say that to.
Yeah. Oh, well, to a degree. But no, EFT is absolutely amazing, so powerful. And I tried so many different things. And then long story short, I then started punishing my body through exercise, because despite the mental battle, I still felt like I had to change myself in order to feel better. And I got into running. I hated running. I still hate running.
I hate it.
Oh, just, it doesn't speak to me whatsoever. I try and find the runner's joy, and I have so much respect to everyone that loves to run. But I didn't love it. And I started running like 4 times a week. I got absolutely obsessed. And I had a calorie counting app, like tracking all my calories, getting obsessive over what food I was eating. And my mum came to watch my showcase a few months later, and I opened that show, and she didn't even know it was me.
Oh, wow.
She didn't recognize me, because I had changed so drastically physically.
So, oh, right. So you were like really
tiny.
Right, okay.
Tiny.
Wow, and your mum didn't even recognize you.
She didn't. She hadn't seen me for months, and I'd literally gotten addicted to running, and I still was so unhappy. But we reach outside of ourselves. We reach for the external stuff to make us feel worthy, and that's what I was doing. Be as small as you can, you know, become this, look like the professional dancer. And I look back and it breaks my heart, because I had this very feminine, very curvaceous physique. I didn't look like an athlete, but I didn't need to. I looked like a woman. I looked like a healthy woman. And I look back and I just wish I've done a lot of work where I've gone back and I've said to that past version of me, like, you're so much more than enough. And that's been incredibly powerful. But yeah, so my mum watched me. She didn't even know it was me. And I just become like a little bird, basically. and the soul was sucked out of me. I'd forgotten why I loved to dance. I forgot why I was even there. Everything was just toxic, high pressure, and a battle against myself. And I went to New York the week after, still trying to pursue the dream of becoming a dancer. And alongside my course, I was trying other fitness classes. I was still quite addicted to not addicted to exercise, but looking for ways of moving my body that I would actually love and enjoy, that didn't feel like punishment. But it was this pressure of, you have to work out, you have to look a certain way. And I saw on ClassPass bar, and I thought, well, surely that's ballet, right? Like, bar has to be ballet. And I was a dancer, and that spoke to me. So I went into this bar class, and I walked straight to the front of the room. I had a big baggy, like, long sleeve top on because I still struggled so much, and I hated seeing myself in the mirror. But dancing was my thing, and I thought, I can thrive in here, I can shine in here. And then the music came on, and I had these two 1 kg dumbbells, 2 to 3 pound dumbbells, and I was so smug. And the warm-up began, and within minutes I was like, what the hell is this? It was a burn that I have never experienced in my life. And you know now, right? Like,
I remember doing my first session thinking, this Emily, like, doing these little pulses, what is this going to do? And then the next day I was like, everything's aching. Even muscles I didn't even know existed ached.
Exactly. So it was like within minutes I thought, this is next level. This is something else. I've never experienced a burn like this in my life. And the most magical thing about it, by the end of the class, I realized I had not once thought about lifting anything, sculpting anything, burning calories, my weight, my appearance. All of that just disappeared. It wasn't a thing. And fitness to me had always been about the aesthetic goals, and it had always been a conscious thing, like, oh, I'm feeling that there. Oh, that means I'm toning this or whatever. And that had just disappeared. And I realized for the first time since being that teenager that just loved to dance, I was moving without any pressure. Because even in my dance auditions and dance classes, I still had that pressure of, be the best. But I was moving my body for joy again. And I was experiencing this sense of empowerment that just transcended anything to do with the physical. It was coming home to me and my power and my body. And it really spoke to me as a woman as well, because I think fitness is very much about sets and reps, statistics, metrics, how many calories, how much weight are you lifting. But this was free, it was fluid. And as women, that's our nature, to be fluid, intuitive, expressive, expansive. And I'd only ever known that through dancing. I'd never known that in a fitness perspective. So I walked out of that class like, oh my God, that has really awakened something within me. And I was still doing my dance classes, but I started to go to bar really frequently, just for the love of it, for the joy of it. And body dysmorphia and my obsession with being enough physically, it just melted away. There isn't a moment that I remember going, oh, ta-da, it's gone. I feel good. It was just this slow burn of moving my body in a different way that empowered me from the inside out. The physical just became a byproduct, and I did develop an incredibly strong physique, but it was like just not even a question that I was enough. It just melted away. I don't know if that makes sense at all. Yeah,
totally.
But it was like moving meditation for me,
I think what's really important is the fact that some people that might be listening to this, they're waiting for that moment.
Yes.
And I think it's interesting because I've had that moment where the realization, but it's interesting that you haven't. And I think there's no right or wrong. Everybody has their own way of like figuring it out themselves. There's no like set path or structure. You just have to keep trying, don't you?
Absolutely. And it's an ongoing journey. It's an everlasting journey.
No one will ever like just be I'm fixed, I'm healed now.
No, exactly.
I just wanted to say the P-head comment.
Yeah.
I too am a fellow P-head. I actually have to have children's hats. Believe it or not, I know I don't look like I've got a small head.
Not at all.
But none of the hats in the shops fit me. So I just wanted to say we're not alone with that.
Really?
I too am a P-head.
That is wild. I mean, you don't have one at all. But I joke about it now.
But like,
no.
It's just like the most ridiculous thing.
The most ridiculous thing.
But how it stays in your head.
Ingrained.
Yeah.
And I used to look in the mirror and I would literally see like a tiny P on a massive body.
Really?
And it got worse and worse and worse. And what I was seeing in the mirror was obviously not reality. And then you get boobs, you're in your teenage years, you get hips, you get curves, and it made my head look smaller. So I had this little comb and it came everywhere with me. If my hair started to drop, even at school, I remember it really well, I'd get anxiety. I'd be like, people are going to see my the pea head. People are going to see the real me. I'm
so
distorted.
You wanted to have bigger hair to counteract the pea head.
Yes.
Okay, right.
So I'd be back combing the hair because I thought that would level out the body. It was so warped and crazy. And then I saw these massive arms. And then you know what it's like. You get cheated on as a teenager, and then you're just like, well, that confirms everything.
Yeah,
that confirms it. Yeah.
And what, can I ask an honest question then? Like, do you still suffer with any kind of body dysmorphia now, or how do you feel about yourself?
Do you know what? As I've gotten older, I feel like I'm a bit funny with the label body dysmorphia. I'm like that with all labels. It's very Aquarian for me, if anyone likes astrology. But anything that puts you in a box, I think it's an everlasting spectrum. It's an infinite spectrum. I think body dysmorphia is something that maybe everyone has to a degree. And I think the pea head thing's gone. But there's always going to be a part of me, especially through some phases in the month, which is why it's so important to get to know your cycle as a woman and what our bodies go through, where you do feel like a bit, you know, uncomfortable in your body, and you might see a flaw that isn't actually there. So I don't think it's ever something that fully goes away, like you say, but what changes is your relationship with that and the acceptance that you have of your body. And it just, like I said, transcends the physical, because you know that regardless, you're enough as you are. Yeah, I don't think I'd say I suffer with body dysmorphia. I'm definitely hard on myself at times, but I think I've developed like a good relationship with my body where I accept where I am. I accept that different seasons and different chapters of my life will require me to live in different versions of my body, and that's okay. So yeah, ultimately I've got that relationship with myself where I think body dysmorphia as a term isn't relevant anymore. Yeah.
And so can I ask you a question? I've obviously seen your online persona. I've followed you for many years. I've seen all the classes, and what's drawn me to your classes in particular is the energy and the smile, and you just give off this like really, oh, I just want to do another class. Like, that's the energy you give off. And I've met you for the first time in person today. You're exactly the same. Do you feel like you've always been this way, like glowy, or do you think that you sort of dimmed or you sort of shrunk yourself when you were younger?
I think I've always been this person, but it's only now that I truly like have believed I am this person. Do you know what I mean? It's almost
you're more
like
comfortable with it.
Yeah, completely. Yeah. And even when I was really underconfident, I was struggling mentally, I was always that person that would give that energy, because I want everyone to feel amazing. Like, I want to just spread light. Even if I'm not feeling it, I will make you feel it. Yeah. But yeah, it's only now that I give that energy to myself as well. And I think, you know, we give so much as women as well, but creating that space to pour it into you.
What advice would you give then to women that are watching you that might see you online and think, oh, you know, her energy's so good, I want a bit of that. How do I get that? Yeah,
I mean, gosh, it's such a journey, and it's taken me a journey to get here, and even to be on this podcast with you. Like, that's 18 or actually in my 20s, that would have been wild to me that I'd ever have the confidence to do something like that. But I think like we all create our reality with our thoughts, our beliefs, our behaviors, and it's becoming aware of your narrative in your head. And like, we all have a little voice in our head, and just be aware of what it's saying, because that's you talking to yourself. So it's easy to lean into the negative and be like, this isn't enough, and you know, I hate this and I hate that. If you're telling yourself that you feel crap and you look a certain way and everything's terrible, then you're right. It is.
Yeah, it's so true.
Then you're completely right. And that's the energy that you're going to give off. But if you decide to wake up in the morning and you're like, what a gift this is. I get to live in this body. I get to experience life. I get to be this soul and having a human experience. Like, that is miraculous in itself. And life's too short to spend time focusing on the negative. Like, what are we doing? You know, if you spread that love within yourself, within your family, your friends, like, that is so, so powerful. And I actually read somewhere that the energy and the frequency that someone who's in love and in joy, someone is in a state of really high vibration, that can affect 300 people. Isn't that crazy? So if you're radiating love and light and you're spreading that good energy, that can be a ripple effect to like 300 people around you. But it's the same if you are in a low vibration and a low frequency. Don't be surprised when everything around you is low vibe too, because you are a magnet. Your frequency is a magnet. And people think this is woo-woo and crazy. But if you have your car radio on, for example, so if you have that on and you're tuning in to a radio station, and for me, I'm thinking of my last radio station I put on, Island FM 104.7. I know I'm going to get Island FM. Your frequency and your vibration is exactly the same thing. It's how we manifest. It's like, if you are in that frequency of love, of positivity, that's what you're going to get. And there's no question of it. You just know it's coming in. And, you know, people talk about Wi-Fi and they're so sure that science, and it's true, like, you don't deny Wi-Fi, you don't deny these radio waves and frequency and your TV coming on. You don't question how that happens. Yet talking about this is weird and woo-woo. People deny the stuff that we can't explain, the intangible, but it's the realest thing on earth. Energy is the truest language, you know, that is the language of the universe. So if you're giving out that love, that light, that joy, you can expect that all around you. And it does. It starts with those tiny little everyday habits. So just become aware of them.
The first place I would say to start is really identify how you feel around certain types of people. So if you, and people might think I'm really hard and brutal, but if you bring my energy down, you're toxic in some way, you're negative, or you bitch, or you complain all the time, I just like, I'm sorry, I am so protective of my own energy, and I will not compromise it at all. And this is only like a recent thing within the last year. I'm like, no, that's my number one non-negotiable. You are not affecting all this work that I have done. And I think that's probably what I would say, is just to start with being mindful of who you surround yourself
Oh my God,
with.
absolutely. And like we said, energy speaks volumes, and being aware of how you feel around people, and have they drained you or have they elevated you, and just setting those boundaries. But I think that's also, that's representative of your relationship with yourself as well. Because when you start to really truly value yourself and respect yourself and know your worth, you will just naturally set those boundaries. So I will say no to things that I never used to. I'd be like, oh yes, do everything, say yes to everything, paint on a smile. And I'm like, no. You have to respect yourself enough to set those boundaries. And sometimes that's difficult, but you have to put yourself and your energy first. So I think that was a big thing for me as well, is actually doing the inner work, which, I mean, I'm skipping a massive chunk of my life here, but when I actually allowed myself to pause, silence the noise, because we all live such busy lives and everything's go, 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 hustle, 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 100,000 miles an hour. And I was forced into a state of stillness. And I think we often make ourselves busy as well. I see this with, like, my mom is the queen at this. We make ourselves busy so that we don't have to feel. And I was forced to feel. And that is so uncomfortable. And the more that you've suppressed, the longer you've suppressed the stuff you don't want to feel, the harder it is to crack that open. But the second you make that crack and you see it emerge, that is your invitation to go in, to feel the stuff you've never wanted to feel, to look at the things you've struggled to look at, and transmute all of that into your evolution. That's how we grow, and that's how we find that self-acceptance, because all of it's valid. The feelings that you have, it's all valid. There's no shame. And I think this is the problem. There's so much shame around vulnerability, but that's your superpower, your sensitivity, your vulnerability. That's your superpower. As humans, you know, we're supposed to feel. It's the most beautiful thing in the world. And so many of us are so afraid of doing that. But that is the key to your greatest evolution and completely changing your life and finding your power and who you are at your core.
Can you talk about what was the switch for you that's led you to here right now creating the Goddess movement?
So New York was a fairy tale in many ways, but I definitely had rose-tinted glasses on, because I think we want to see things as amazing and lovely, and we want to look at our relationships as fairy tale, and we ignore the red flags, and we just want everything to be fine, and your gut's screaming at you like, that's not right, that's awful, you're being treated in a way that isn't right, but you don't want to see it. So I chose to just see the good. And I was living my life in New York. I was all happy in this relationship, and it literally felt like a movie. And then, very long story short, moved back to London with my partner at the time, found out some really not very nice things about him and our relationship. And it just, overnight, it was just this sudden shock. After almost 5 years, it was just this revelation. And it was almost a relief, because I'd been so anxious. I'd been going to therapy, questioning myself, like, what's wrong with me? And then I realized that I was in this relationship, and it was not the relationship I thought it was. And everything made sense. And in that moment, I remember finding the phone with all the evidence on it. And it was this sick feeling that I had, you know, when you get all hot and you don't want it to be real and your whole life is crumbling. But there was this kind of inner strength that I feel. And you know what blows my mind? I look back then and it was like someone was with me, like comforting me and saying everything was going to be okay. That is the present me now. That is me going back to that moment, because my God, I've done that a lot. I've gone back to that girl and I've said, you're going to be fine. And that was future me at the time, looking after me then. And I made the decision that I was going to be really brave, put on my big girl pants, end it, and draw a line, and then I was going to be fine. There was no question. I just had to survive. And we do this. We go into survival mode, don't we? And I put on a really sexy little outfit because I was like, I'm not going to be heartbroken and looking tragic. This is the way my mind works. I was like, in my head, I still had to be that perfect person. Even though I'm heartbroken, even though my life's now going to crumble, I still have to put on the leather jacket and the lips and go out there and be this confident girl. And I did. And I ended things, and I remember I got the tube, I went straight to Topshop at the time, and I bought my breakup jumper, quote unquote, my breakup jumper, which I knew I was just going to exist in for the next few weeks while I got over my heartbreak. Bought a bag of peanut M&Ms, got home, and that was me for like 2 weeks in my breakup jumper, surviving on peanut M&Ms and McDonald's chicken nuggets, just horrendous.
We've all been there.
We've all been there, and I look back now, I'm like, who was that girl? So I knew that was me for 2 weeks. I was just going to be in that breakup jumper, just surviving, getting by, doing what I had to do. And I was teaching about 15 classes a week. I was teaching fitness classes. I was auditioning, trying to be the perfect employee, friend, all while everything was crumbling around me. And then it was a few weeks after that, just after New Year's Eve, I woke up in the middle of the night, and I was staying in our flat and he had moved out and we were trying to figure things out. And I'd been ill for a couple of days. I felt like I'd had the flu. But I woke up in the middle of the night and it was this sensation as if someone was stabbing me in the back with a knife. I couldn't catch a breath if I tried. I was really dizzy, fever, and I just called 999 and I managed to get my address out. Next thing I know, they've had to break down the door to find me. And I was in an ambulance on my way to Chelsea and Westminster Hospital. And I didn't want to tell my mum. I thought that's going to terrify her in the middle of the night. It was about 2 o'clock in the morning. And I text my best friend saying that I was on my way to hospital and that I was scared. I don't even remember doing that. And again, I was in and out of consciousness. I woke up again in ICU. I had all these like wires strapped to me. I was having all these tests done. And my friend arrived and I just remember the shock on her face. But I couldn't move. I was so out of it. I was on so much morphine. I didn't know what was happening. And she said, I'm really sorry, but I'm going to have to tell your mum. And obviously my mum lives back in Guernsey where I'm from. And I begged her not to. I said, please, you can't. I don't want you to scare her. Please don't. And obviously she did. And yeah, that whole night, it's such a blur. But at the same time, some of it's so vivid. And I just remember saying to my friend, like, just make me pass out. I don't want to feel this pain anymore. Just punch me in the face or something. Make me pass out. And then my mum arrived the next morning and I just remember one big tear just streaming down my cheek. I didn't even have the energy to say anything. And I was in ICU for 10 days.
Wow.
Yeah. And it was severe pneumonia. And a moment for me was the nurse coming up to me and saying, you're heartbroken, aren't you? And I was like, yeah. She said, you're grieving and it's your left side. It's your left lung. And my left lung was literally filling up with fluid, like what happens when you die. And it was really bad. And I had not allowed myself to feel. I was grieving and I was drowning in my own tears and I'd suppressed my emotion and I'd suppressed my emotions my whole life.
Be tough.
Yeah.
Be strong.
Be strong. You're fine. Get on with it. Show up, smile. And I'd been that girl who was broken inside for years, body dysmorphia, broken. But I would paint on a smile and I would be the perfect this, that, and everything for everybody in my life. And then I just couldn't anymore. I did it until my body literally said, no more. You have got to show your emotions. You have got to be authentic. You cannot live this lie anymore. So that was just the straw to break the camel's back. And I was forced into this sense of, holy shit, I've got to find out who the hell I am underneath all of this and allow myself to feel the stuff that I've buried forever. And it was that nurse's comment. And I think I had a lot of time, like, bless my mum, she camped with me in the hospital. But when she did leave me on my own, there's just nothing. You're at your lowest point in a hospital bed. My life had just completely done a 180 and changed. And where I thought it was going, it wasn't going there anymore. And that's when I realized the connection between your body and your emotions, how powerful our thoughts are, how powerful our emotions are. They're not two separate things. The biggest illusion is that there is separation. Everything is connected and intertwined. And I realized that I had to bring that into my purpose. This is what I was here to do, is to lean into this work. I mean, I didn't know that right there and then. I needed time to, get there. But in reflection, after this had happened, I thought, okay, that was actually my greatest gift. That was my opportunity to turn around and empower other women and allow them to see their vulnerabilities as their superpower, to allow themselves to find their authenticity and allow that to be their greatest power, and to let who they are shine rather than bury it. And I had to learn it the hard way, but I'm so grateful for that time in my life, because it was the beginning of everything for me.
Do you know the incredible thing that you said? And I think we should give ourselves a pat on the back, is the fact that you identified a toxic relationship and left. My friend's just done it recently. She had the strength to leave, and I think in the moment when you're in the process of leaving, you feel really weak and you're not this strong female, but how strong that you actually left. Because in my toxic relationship, I didn't leave.
I didn't leave at first, though.
I didn't leave. He finished with me, and I'm so grateful. The fact I don't believe in a God. I grew up religious, but I don't believe in a God. But my God, I am so blessed. The fact that he finished with me, because my life would be so different if I stayed with that person. I see who he is still. Yeah. They don't change. They don't change. Their excuses get better. But when I look at women like you, my friend in particular, like, they left. They actually did the hardest thing and identified that it wasn't right and left. So well done.
Thank you. But I will say that there were times where I could have left earlier. Don't get me wrong. I definitely put up with things that I look back now. I would certainly not put up with that now. But as I said, you're only going to put up with what you believe yourself to be worthy of. And I think my level of self-worth was not up there. So I put up with a lot more than I should have. And there were times I should have gotten out sooner. But you're right. There was just a moment, and I knew that I'd be doing myself a huge disservice to stay in it. But it was the hardest thing in the world. It was the absolute hardest thing in the world. But the hardest things are always the best things. The things that you're most afraid to do are the things that's going to change your life in the most incredible ways. And some part of me knew that. Some future version of me was calling me forward to say, come on, girl, This is it. You know that you deserve better. But it's difficult. It's impossible to tell yourself that. And the hardest thing as well is to be honest with yourself. And if I'm honest with myself, I knew subconsciously all along that there was something wrong. But I did not want to see it.
Put it in a box. It's not happening.
Put it in the box. I have the dream relationship. It's a fairy tale. No, love, it's not. And you know that deep down. Take the rose-tinted glasses off. Listen to your intuition. Get out and thrive.
So just to summarise, obviously I've told you like what my thing has been over the recent years that's given me the most momentum and growth personally and professionally. What would you say your summary would be for anyone that's sort of going through how we've both felt? Because we know all women feel it at some point in their lives. What is the summary that you would give to help somebody else get out of that rut that they're in?
So obviously I'm not a guru, and if I had everything together, then I wouldn't be here. We're all still learning, and it's an ever-changing, ever-growing journey. But I would say the biggest thing for me is becoming aware of what I consume. So that's not just social media and TV and things that I'm hearing through gossip. It's also the foods that I eat. Anything that lowers my vibration, be it something that you scroll through on Instagram or friends that don't make you feel alive when you're around them, then I don't need it. If it doesn't elevate me, I don't give it my time anymore. And it's just getting more strict about those boundaries. And that also involves the voice in your head. So becoming really aware of that, because this is an inside job. And you cannot shame yourself into change. You can only love yourself into evolution. And so that starts with bringing love into everything. If it's not loving, if it doesn't feel loving, you don't need it. So yeah, just becoming really, really aware and setting those boundaries, I think, has been huge for me. So just becoming very aware of the way that you talk to yourself, that voice in your head, and not beating yourself up for not being perfect. Perfect doesn't exist. You as your most authentic self is enough and more. And you've got to just tell yourself that until you believe it. It's not something that happens overnight. It's like a muscle that you've got to strengthen. But it starts with the little things. Celebrate the little wins in your life. If you catch yourself going down that negative spiral, stop yourself in the moment. How can you lean into love instead? Journal on things that you're grateful for, things that make you feel alive, that make you feel happy, things that you love about yourself. It's the hardest thing in the world, right? I think if I said to you, write 3 things that you don't love about yourself, you'd write all day. Not everyone, but a lot of us, because we're so hard on ourselves. And if I said, write 3 things you truly love about yourself, how would that feel? Try it, because I remember doing that for the first time and it was such an alien thing. It was so uncomfortable, and it shouldn't be. I could sit here, Lindsey, and tell you about a million things I think are amazing about you, but if I was to say it to you maybe 5 years ago, that would have been difficult. Hopefully now you'd find it a little bit easier.
I would say when I get a compliment now, I'll go, thank you.
Yes.
And I don't try and deflect and go, oh, this old thing. I'll go, oh, thank you very much. That's very kind.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that's important to, again, practice the skill of learning to take a compliment.
Receive love. And that's the feminine as well. Like I said to you, we're lacking that feminine energy. We're all so in our masculine energy. The feminine receives love. She doesn't just give it. She's the receiver. She receives pleasure. So welcoming that love into your life, knowing that you're worthy of it, despite what you've been led to believe. You're worthy of all of that love that you give to yourself and that others give to you. And it's a little muscle that you've just got to strengthen and start just becoming aware of those thoughts that you are having every day, the words that you're saying to yourselves and what you're consuming as well.
Thank you so much. I think we've covered so much stuff and my head's literally about to explode. Thank you so much for coming today. I've really enjoyed listening to your story and the evolution of Emily, and to see you grow over the years, to see who you are in person. I've actually just loved every second. So thank you.
Thank you so much. I think you hit the nail on the head before when you said about collaboration and women coming together. And I truly believe this is a shift. I think, we're strongest when we rise together and we elevate each other and we support each other. And yeah, it's been such a pleasure to be on here and support you as well. I think you're amazing. So here's to the goddess rising.